This is Dr. Carmen Smith, and in this video, you can kind of see why I kind of labeled myself or came up with the label of spiritual activism or activist. And this country, when we're talking about fear and love, oftentimes is seeped in fear. We're taught to fear. We're alerted and always on the edge because we're afraid of this group or that group or what could happen. So it's kind of like a fear bubble, and I've called it that before. So in this video, not only has George Floyd happened, but also a lot of other racially motivated violence towards Black people have happened, or Hispanic people of color. And so I'm really talking to in this video about the hatred and fear that is seeped in America. And you'll also notice something shocking, not just my words, but my hair is different. So once you get over that, maybe you can really sink your teeth into the message and really take it in as a personal invitation for a personal transformation. Also share, like, subscribe to my channel. In the algorithms, that's what gets views, and that's what is really great about YouTube, is that you can share it, you can pass it on to friends, you can have a like. So be sure and do that. And yeah, it goes deep. Get ready. Put your seatbelt on, America. So now we get to what's happening here in the United States. And you're like, well, how does this relate? We are celebrating, or yesterday celebrated, many, many years of liberation from England. But we have not liberated from fear. We have not liberated from the instructions that we've been given. The instructions that the United States of America developed were to enslave Africans. And in order to enslave a people, you have to pretty much portray them in a negative light, because that will justify what you do. It's just like going off to war. If you go off to war with the Japanese or people in Pakistan, you have to villainize them in order to get everybody on board to do something heinous that they wouldn't normally do. Those are instructions that you give somebody, whether it's the military or whatnot. And so this country has operated under instructions that say that Native Americans are horrible. They're corrupt. And why do you say that? To steal their land. You've got to justify it. So you've got to put some instructions in there. These aren't bad people that we're dealing with. We're dealing with horrible instructions. And so it reminds me of a wonderful quote that Charles Sumner did. He was an abolitionist and also a senator. And he was always radically telling people that slavery is wrong, but not just slavery, but it's the structure that was put in place to enslave Africans. And so one of his quotes, which I love, he stood up in July 4th of 1845 and said, "Nothing resembles God more than that man among us who has arrived at the highest degree of justice." So nothing resembles God more than that man among us who has arrived at the highest degree of justice. So when I read that now, and I look at George Floyd, and I look at police killing Black people, We haven't arrived at the highest degree of justice. And that's a God quality. So what about those instructions? Those instructions, we can say, well, that was years ago. They shouldn't be still in place. Well, they are. And they have a function now. So what is the function of these instructions? The function is, if I can get you to hate on somebody, let's say they have red hair, and I say all red-haired people are horrible, and then I go out and I see somebody with red hair and I can have a fight with that person and then put it on social media and then put it on the news about people with red hair. And then I make a movie and it subliminally tells me that red-haired people are the villains. I can keep you distracted. Meanwhile, I'm robbing from the kitty over here. I'm taking away EPA rights over here. I'm stealing this over here. It just gives them something to hate. Just give the Americans, because we're known for this actually, give them something to hate, to chew on, distract them. They love a good hate every now and then. And then I can do something over here. So I want you to see how these instructions, and I call it a weapon of mass destruction. See how these things are intrinsic and baked into the American culture. So now that we know that this is about instructions, it's not about people. You love people. You trust God. Now, how do you have enough love? Because I have a lot of love for people that don't like me. Now, that sounds weird to most people, not to you guys, because you are spiritual warriors. You're love warriors. But to most people, they love people that like them, agree with them, think like they do. But in order to be a love warrior, which Ernest Holmes is asking us to really get in there, get in the trenches of ourselves, see all of the instructions that we were given and how our thoughts are corrupted. Once we see that, we have compassion for people that can't see their own stuff. This is difficult to do. This is not easy. If it was easy, we would not have this structure in place. We would have done what the abolitionists talked about, is don't put up all these monuments as a smokescreen, as a place for people to believe that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave, when you are not brave enough to go into the shadow of your own self, clean that out, and realize the fundamental truth, which is love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Now, this is usually where I would do the holy dance or drop the mic, because Jesus was saying, okay, you can forget everything else, but remember this. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. And when you can do that, then you've realized who you are. That only God can love somebody that doesn't agree with them, that hates you. So once you love your neighbor, he didn't say the neighbor that thinks like you. He said, love your neighbor. So only God, through the lens of God, can you love yourself, by loving yourself, even your shadow. Can you look out of those lens, that lens, the God lens, and see that other person and say, oh, I know we don't agree, but you're just following the instructions you were given. I understand that. I get it. I've done the same thing. Yeah. My love for you is not based on that, on your instructions. My love for you is the truth of who you are. You are a God being, capable of destruction and creation.